What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Juice. I'm Sayre Bedinger, and we got a great show today. But of course, Brandon Keckler here with me today, and more important than the Juice today, Brandon, we got some big news from you on your end here today. We're going to talk Denver
Big day.
Broncos. We're going to talk about
Big
that.
day.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that.
It's cut day in
It
more
is.
than one ways.
It is.
Official cut deadline's tomorrow, but everybody's working like mad right now to figure all that out.
Yeah, and that's one of the most interesting. I mean, it's hard to it's really hard to like get excited about this because on the
Right.
one hand I am excited about it because it's news. They're one of the most fun parts of the NFL is just how everything is constantly changing. But this is a hard day for a lot of guys. I mean, it's tough. It's really tough because these guys are losing jobs. These are actual people. They're not just names on the Madden roster. I mean, it was so easy for me to just cut and trade and
Right.
move around guys on Madden. But then when you think about, I mean, these are actual people with families, and they've got people that are in their corner. Like I was looking on Instagram at River Craycraft's Instagram page, and he took a really awesome photo with his mom at last night's game. And you just think about the fact that, man, like, what if that was his last professional football game?
Yeah.
And
I told my
and
buddy last night.
It's not.
I said, 20 years from now, they may be looking back at like that sack or that play and going, "That was my one moment that had a highlight play,"
Yeah.
And then he's hired at a car dealership, and they put his jersey up in a frame, and so that they can say they have an ex Denver Broncos player, and then that's the rest of that guy's life. Like that's just the reality of where some of these stories go, and it's both fascinating and yeah, if you have empathy, you do feel that sadness. You do feel that like, dude, these guys' dreams may have ended, and Adam Schefter's tweet this morning that I woke up to was so sobering, like there's like 1,000 something people that are about to get fired.
Wow.
Over the next 2 days, 1,184 NFL players will be fired from their jobs. Some will return to practice squads. Many will have no choice but to move on. There is no busier transaction time in the NFL than this weekend. For many, it is a brutal weekend they will never forget.
That's such a great remander. I'm glad that he tweets that out because people do need to realize that these are people. It would be no different than if it was one of your people in your life that got fired from their job, and if anybody's ever said to me, excuse me, if anybody's ever said to me like, "Hey, I got fired from my job," that's like a really you kind of like your heart sinks a little bit, the blood flushes from your face a little bit. You're like, what do I say? What do I do? Imagine getting fired from an NFL team.
That's tough.
I mean, that's
because especially there's not a lot of, you can go coach. It's not like their skill set is completely unutilized for the rest of their life, but the primary thing that they want to do, it's like, even for me as a screenwriter, and we can briefly talk about that, what today is for me, but it's just crazy how, even after working on specifically this one TV pilot for, a decade, it's like, I may now have my opportunity to pitch my show. And think about, like, it doesn't work that way in the NFL where they can go spend another 10 years now and then try to make it in the NFL in 10 years. My career may be beginning. Like, there's a lot of screenwriters and directors that, really catch their break in their 40s and 50s. That does not happen for NFL players. This is it. This is the end of the line. So it's just like putting that all in perspective of where do they go from here? And they may have to adjust and adapt their dream, but the primary dream that they had, that they've been fighting for since, they were little kids, is done today potentially. And then you just see some of those plays inversely last night where maybe that saved the guy's career forever. Being able to hit that moment. Say the announcers were saying it's their Super Bowl for a lot of these guys.
It is.
I love that aspect of it. That's the good part of it.
Yeah, that's why when people say like they're not interested in the fourth and final preseason game, like I get it. It doesn't have regular season or playoff implications.
People were talking, I'm going to watch college football right now. Like, why would I watch the fourth game of the pre? And I'm like, all right, well, you do you, boo boo, you know, like, but I'm going to be watching this because I'm fascinated. And I was really enjoying watching Paxton even at the end of the game. Like I was enjoying seeing what these guys could do because I felt that seriousness of like these guys have their dreams on the line. And there's a certain reality TV aspect of that was just absolutely, I've said it many times in this pod already, fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating to watch the end of these guys' dreams and some of these people cementing the fact that no, I'm not going away.
Right. And that's the type of player that I think coaches and general managers are looking to put on their roster. Is that guy that's like, no, like if you're going to cut me, you're going to regret it someday.
Yep.
And that's the type of mentality
decision of your life.
Yes, right. Exactly.
And so who do you think last night did enough to surprise and maybe change their stock value to maybe make the team?
I mean, we got to start with the obvious, right? Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
You know, okay. So here's the thing. I personally, and I'm being harsh because we're talking about, we're talking about cutting another guy that's played really well over the course of the last couple months and even couple years. So if you're talking about keeping Paxton Lynch, that's what I mean. If you're talking about keeping Paxton Lynch, you're simultaneously talking about cutting somebody else on the roster who may have performed better. Paxton Lynch, to me last night, I mean, was he impressive statistically? Yeah. Did he make a couple of impressive throws? I thought, there was one throw in particular that I was like, oh, dang, that was a good throw.
Yeah, he showed his athletic skill set. He showed that. But the problem has been, being able to manage the team and read the defenses and that kind of stuff. So the last game of a first rounder in the last game of the preseason, being able to show off his athletic giftings, that's not really that much of a shock because we already knew we had that in him. And I don't think it really changes drastically the other problems that we had with him. But I think it helps us potentially solve the problem because I think after that game, he doesn't look like a total and complete bust, which means that we should, I think, get some value for him, more value than we would have if he didn't. And I think he was more auditioning for another team's backup job than he was really doing anything to change his future on the Broncos.
Yeah, because Chad Kelly's cemented as the number 2 quarterback as of right now.
And I love that. I love that they said that before they talked about it today. That Vance said that and Elway said that last night. There was not like, oh, we're going to see how it is and see what's up with, Chad. And they're like, no, Chad's done enough to be number 2. This Paxton in week 4 of the preseason game, he's not going to leapfrog Chad.
No, he's not going to. And that's where the biggest question marks come in because Vance Joseph kind of left it open-ended. It was either last night or it was this week. Somebody asked him, like, what's the benefit of keeping 3 quarterbacks? And he's like, well, it depends. If you've got the future in mind and you've got 3 quarterbacks that you like, that's the benefit of it is that you've got 3 quarterbacks that you like. But when it comes to playing regular season games, that 3rd quarterback is useless. It's a waste of space. Right. So you have to either have guys that you're like, all right, we've got 3 potential franchise guys, and either we haven't got a trade offer that we like, or we need to make sure we get the maximum value. And we saw New England dump 2 guys last year in the same season, less than a year apart. Jacoby Brissett got traded to the Indianapolis Colts, and then Jimmy Garoppolo got traded to the San Francisco 49ers. And those are both, in my opinion, starting caliber quarterbacks.
They both started last year.
They did, and I think that they performed pretty decent, all things considered. And so I don't think the Broncos have a similar situation. I don't think Chad Kelly's quite. Let's as optimistic as we are about Chad Kelly. He's not quite what Jimmy Garoppolo was for 4 years in New England, nor is Paxton Lynch what Jacoby Brissett was. And Brissett was a 3rd-round pick, and so Paxton. He showed against 3rd and 4th stringers, and I'm still going to give him credit because you know what? We were excited about Chad Kelly's performance against 3rd stringers, so I mean, let's give Paxton credit. He completed the balls, 14 to 15 passing, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. He bumped up his completion percentage from, get this, he bumped up his completion percentage in preseason play from 48.3 to over 66, I believe.
Wow.
In one game. And so
he did a good job, man, and I was excited for him. I was proud of him.
Yeah.
And as you know, I walked to my closet and I was like, you know what? I'm putting my Paxton jersey on one last time. And as of that moment, Paxton had scored 0 touchdowns in the preseason.
Yep.
I put my jersey on, just saying. He scored in 30 seconds, and then he scored again. First 2 preseason touchdowns. So I like to believe that, you know, I put a little bit of faith, a little bit of good karma, a little bit of good mojo flowing toward Paxton to give him a little boost last night.
He led 3 scoring drives, didn't he?
I think he did.
Field goal drive, touchdown with a 2-point conversion, and then another touchdown.
Well, yep.
And then there was a missed field goal as well. But was that with Chad Kelly or was that with Paxton? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I think that was the second half though.
You know, I got to rewatch the game. But I think Paxton, you know, if this is all up to Elway, and I don't think that I could fault him either way. Because if it was me, you know this, even just being a fantasy football owner, and cuts are coming in. So Jordan Leslie, wide receiver, has been cut by the Broncos as we're doing this, and he tweeted this. He says, back-to-back years of leading a team in receptions, reception yards, and still being cut. Crazy business.
Wow.
It is.
Wow.
Those are strong words. He's not happy about it. And I don't blame him. You know, I don't blame guys for reacting like that. I like that mentality. Yeah. Go get it, man. Go get it. You got to go make your team. That's our hashtag, by the way. Go get it.
Go get it.
Hashtag go get it.
That's a crazy tweet. I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah, look at it right now. So Jordan Leslie cut as we're sitting here. So if you're still making 53-man roster predictions, which I'm still going to get on one yet today here. If you're still making 53, you got to get an edge up here because the Broncos are cutting guys as we speak. So I mean, it's just nuts. And I think, like I was saying, I think if I was John Elway and I was saying, you know, this as a fantasy football owner, when you invest high in a guy, you want to keep him. You want to see what he's got. You're like, I'm going to cling on to this guy because I mean, I traded for him. I traded up to get him. I spent a first-round pick on him. Like, right. I've got to hope at least that this guy can turn out to what I thought he was going to be, and then you get rid of him at the last possible moment. I mean, not even necessarily sometimes getting any value in return for their upside because you've already spent the time that they had upside rostering them and hoping that they could become what they could become. But I wouldn't fault Elway for keeping Lynch another year. But at the same time, depending on the fallout on the rest of the roster, if there's even one guy that gets cut that I'm like, okay, that guy should have been on the roster and Lynch is still on the team, I think that a lot of fans are going to be up in arms about it. And so I could see it going either way.
The announcers last night were talking about from the Denver broadcast. They were talking about how he needs a clean break probably from the Broncos, and that even it was when he was playing well. It wasn't prior to it. It was when he was playing well. They were saying, you know, we still think he probably would be best getting a clean break and going somewhere else. So that's kind of my perspective on the situation is like, I think Paxton needs a second chance somewhere else where he's not the guy that's the first round pick that lost his job to the 7th rounder twice, but he goes and he's able to kind of start anew as just a new acquisition, new slate somewhere else, whether it's as the Cowboys backup or somewhere else. I think he really needs that. I think he needs that kind of fresh boost. And that's where I felt more last night that he was kind of playing for potentially a job somewhere else. I want the guy to do well somewhere, but I just think that we have our 2 guys. And if we need a 3rd guy, I don't think he's developed enough to step in and start this year. So if that's the case, then why are we holding him to develop him for somebody else next year? We don't even know, even if we develop him for another year, if we don't even be able to get compensation or if his contract would just run out.
Exactly.
Nobody wants him. So why even spend the time in the roster spot to develop him, even if you think he needs one more year to develop? I think you just get the value that you can get from what you showed at the end of that game. You cash in on that and you move forward. Clean break for the Broncos, fresh start, moving with our 2 quarterbacks forward. You need a third guy. Go get a third guy at some point. I don't think it should be now. And, Paxton gets to go and start over and get a chance somewhere else.
Yeah, and so for the Broncos to do that, just so everybody knows, if the Broncos trade him, what another team is absorbing is about $1.3 million. So that's really, really low level backup money.
Yeah.
But if the Broncos keep him as a third quarterback, his cap figure, his cap hit, which is right around $3 million, I think, that ends up being one of the highest third string quarterback numbers in the NFL.
Right.
So, I mean, like I said, could see it going either way, but he's going to be I think he's going to be the top focus as we approach this 24 hours plus of cutting.
What else is going on right now that you think changed last night, or what are some of the other hot points that they're going to be facing today and tomorrow?
Yeah, well, somebody started a rumor about D'Angelo Henderson getting cut. Mm-hmm. I don't know who started that rumor, but Henderson has been the team's best player the last 2 preseasons, pretty much. I mean, looking at his numbers last night, I was like, well, he was kind of underwhelming in the first 2 preseason games. So I looked up the numbers and I put them all together. Let me find the tweet, because I posted all the numbers that he's had. I think it was like he ran for he had 25 carries for like 103 yards or something like that, and then last preseason he had over 125 yards, something like that, averaging just about 5 yards a carry, catching the ball well. I don't know, D'Angelo Henderson, to me, I never even considered that he would be a candidate for release unless somebody just blatantly outplayed him. But his skill set,
I could see if D. Will and Lindsey, all those guys all were just really good, and then Booker showed something, and then you really want to keep Jano. It's like, okay, maybe D'Angelo's the odd man out, but there's no way that we've seen more from D. Will than D'Angelo.
Right
there, that puts him in the top 5, and the Broncos want to keep 5.
Yep. And that's another thing too, is a lot of people are making roster predictions that have 4 running backs, including Andy Janovich. But we heard, and I think it was the second preseason broadcast, we heard Brian Griese and Steve Levy talk about, like, they were told by the Broncos that they want to keep 5, including Janovich.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know where that came from. Somebody really started something on Broncos Twitter, though, because a lot of people have been like up in arms over, oh, we better not be cutting D'Angelo Henderson. And somebody was saying that if the Broncos cut him, other teams would have interest. And I'm like, well, heck yeah, they would have interest. He's a good player. So, I mean, I don't know. But other than that, I think defensively last night, that was a good performance by the defense, by the way. I mean, they locked it down on after that first touchdown drive from Glennon and the Cardinals. I thought the defense did a really, really good job. One big mover that I'm seeing right now is Alexander Johnson, the linebacker, the guy that they just signed, the undrafted player who has been out of football for 4 years, was charged with rape back in 2014, got kicked off the Tennessee football team, undrafted, and was his case just got dismissed in June, I think. And so the Broncos signed him a couple weeks back, and he's made a couple splash plays on special teams. But last night he made a really nice play, knifing through the middle of the offensive line for a tackle for loss against the run. And I just think if he's going to be balling out on special teams like he was, and if he can add value to your defense, the Broncos invested highly in him. So I'll be interested to see. But I think if anyone is going to be that 4th linebacker, I think he's the guy. Otherwise, I could see them keeping just 3 off-ball linebackers. We talked about that, just you and I, a while back when I made a prediction and talking about how they're going to use those safeties. And by the way, how about Sua Cravens last night?
I loved it. I texted you. I was like, I can feel Sua Cravens enter the frame before I even see that it's number 21.
Yep.
It's just the way he moves. I'm just like, ooh, there he is. Ooh, there he is. And then just wraps him up. I love his stock is my personal Brandon Keckler stock. Sua's is rising fast. I love Sua Cravens.
Yep. I think him and Will Parks are going to be a really interesting backup safety duo for us. Honestly, with what the Broncos just did with Menelik Watson, would you be super surprised with what they've seen from Parks and now Cravens? Would you be super surprised if they did something with Darian Stewart?
The very first thing, again, we can go to my Madden franchises. Very first thing I do, that's one of the moves I make. Is I go, hey, I got Cravens, I got Parks, I got Simmons. Yeah. I like to target guys in the last like 3-4 years of their career as they start to kind of cross over the hump. And I like to exchange that value for youth and just keep that system and that cycle going. And unless you have a spot on your team that you just don't have the players for, then you keep that old guy a little bit longer and you milk that a little bit longer until you can fill that in. But I don't feel like we have that problem. So if this is Madden Keckler GM, then yes, I think that Darian Stewart absolutely, like was that yesterday that me and you were talking about packaging Darian Stewart and Paxton up and like sending them to the Cowboys, because the Cowboys need a safety. You know, something like that, it would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, so if the Broncos wanted to release him, they would absorb $8.7 million just dead cap. So I think releasing him is out of the question. But if they trade him, they absorb $4.2 million of dead cap and they save 4.5 this year.
I don't see them cutting him at all.
I don't think they'll cut him.
Yeah, I could see the trade. Cut him.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially for a team that thinks that they're, you know, ready to fight for their division at the least, that they have a chance to win their division. They got some key pieces in most other places, and you're lacking a safety. You really need a strong safety, and or not literally a strong safety, but you really need a strong piece at safety. Darian Stewart has that veterancy. He's been around the no-fly zone. He's a champion. I think that would be a really good target for a team in that position. And just from the Broncos, that's a position of strength that if we're looking to move and get something elsewhere, we need to throw a couple guys together in a package. I think Darian Stewart and Shane Ray, you know, some of those guys but maybe even Booker. Like, I would not be upset if any of those guys go for the sake of improving the Broncos. I don't want to lose Shane Ray for nothing, because I think he's better. If we don't get something great for Shane Ray, then let's just use him and fire all the missiles. You know, like we've been saying. I don't think that we should just get rid of him this soon. I'd rather hold on to him and use him this year and not get anything for him if he helps us go places this year.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And that brings us to another guy at his position, Jeff Holland. I mean, so that's with the Shane Ray thing. Honestly, I liked what I saw from Shane Ray. I think a lot of people were dogging on him because they assumed that he was going to be a certain way. I thought he played well. I mean, I was watching, I think it was the Bears game. And I was watching and I'm like, dang, that tackle's just having a tough day trying to handle Shane Ray, because Shane Ray was bringing 110% on every single rep. And I'm like, man, that tackle's got to be just getting ticked off, because Shane Ray's coming in, he's jabbing him in the chest, he's jabbing him in the shoulder, he's jabbing him. I mean, he's just getting on him and he's just pushing him back. And then he had that sack in that game as well, I believe. And he just looked solid. And then last week, I think he had another big play. And he didn't play last night. So either he didn't play last night because the Broncos are like, he's going to be a valuable asset, or he didn't play because they're going to trade him and they couldn't afford to get him hurt. So there's reasons why 30 people or however many players didn't play last night. There's multiple reasons other than they made the squad. Like Troy Fumagalli and Andreas Knapp didn't play last night. Marcus Rios didn't play last night. Like, all those three guys are hurt. So you got to think like, well, it's not just, well, the Broncos have 30 guys that are locked into the roster. You got to look at the roster or the players that are sitting out. And so I could see Jeff Holland being, because like I tweeted yesterday, the Broncos got to play the end game there. You got to think even just 1 year down the line, you've got Shaq Barrett and Shane Ray that are on expiring contracts this year. So what do you do at the end of the season when you have, you lose both of them? and then you let Jeff Holland go in the 2018 preseason, and you're like, well, shoot. And then we had 5 guys last year at this time. Now we've got 2, and you're 1 injury away from being in real big trouble. So
I'll be upset if we don't have Holland on the roster this year.
Agreed.
Because we're not going to stash him. And
no, they can't. They won't be able to.
We do have a preponderance of pass rushers, but 2 of those guys are potentially not going to be on the roster next year. So, yeah, I think Holland's not only somebody that we need for the future, but I think he's shown enough that he deserves to be on this roster. It's just a stacked group. So maybe that pushes them in the direction of a Shane Ray trade a little bit more, or maybe fielding some of those offers. There's so many teams in the NFL that would love just one of our pass rushers. I can't believe people aren't beating our doors down to get Jack Barrett and Shane Ray. Can't believe it.
Yeah, they always say, what's that old saying? Deadlines spark action or something like that. I think that these teams now, they're getting close to, obviously we're close to the 24-hour mark before teams officially have to have their rosters turned in, but I think that teams will start.
Texans cut Braxton Miller.
Oh, snap. Wow. Well, he was kind of, I don't know. I didn't really notice him as a huge asset. He was a great player at Ohio State, but I never noticed him as a huge threat for that Texans offense. So that's kind of a bummer. He's a phenomenal athlete, and he was a really good quarterback at times for Ohio State. But just sometimes the wide receiver experiment does not work.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be that's a crazy thing for some quarterbacks to do. Like mad props to like Antoine Randall-Els of the world that are able to come in and carve out just these stellar careers. Yeah, even Terrell Pryor,
It's crazy how he started in the NFL as a quarterback. Usually it's like they transfer into college right when they come into the pros, but he played quarterback for a team and then went to another team and switched to wide receiver mid-pro career, So that was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't even think about that. I tend to forget about his time with Oakland.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I unfortunately don't. I'm around too many Raider fans.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough life.
Dude, speaking of, real quick, did you think that Gruden would be dismantling the Raiders this quick?
No, I did
Mac
not.
Drama, whew, I mean, grab the popcorn. This is beautiful. I just can't wait. I can't wait. I'm ready to text as soon as they get rid of him or do something with them. Like, it's going to be so satisfying for the anti-Raider in me.
I would be shocked if he's not traded at this point.
I just saw something.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that you're not going to see him make Aaron Donald money.
No.
So I don't know what they're going to do. Is he going to bite his, bite the tongue and just go and play? Michael Silver said a really good kind of scenario. He said, or not scenario, but listed the scenarios he thinks are going to happen in order, starting with 1, he comes in next week and plays. 2, Raiders get blown away by an offer and trade him. 3, he comes in later in September and plays. 4, he sits out the season. 5, he gets an Aaron Donald-like deal from the Raiders.
Wow. So
that's the least likely one, is the one that Mac and Raider fans probably want the most. So we already know they're just about the most delusional fan base in the world. The way that they're viewing this and the way that they're viewing Gruden, most of them, at least the ones I'm talking to, just believe Gruden is the second coming and he's gonna bring the team back to the glory days. They all trust this whole veterancy plan. They think that bringing in the leadership is going to change the mentality, kind of like what the Browns are trying to do in Hard Knocks right now is kind of change that atmosphere. That's what they think is happening right now. So, I mean, seeing this and seeing their refusal to even really negotiate with Mac, and that Gruden hasn't even sat and talked with them. Oh man, it just looks like this situation is going to dissolve fast. And what are you going to do? You can't cut Gruden. You can't fire Gruden even after say he has 3 terrible seasons. You going to cut him and pay
$7 years
yeah, on his contract?
Wow. Hilarious. That was such a bad idea.
Don't you think the owners and the GM are like, just, we need to talk to him. We need to figure this situation out. We can't lose Khalil Mack. We're suspect with Khalil Mack. We lose Khalil Mack, and we're back. We're back to the bottom of the AFC West, and we're wasting Derek Carr's prime.
Yep. And that's satisfying for us Broncos fans because also, too, if the Raiders trade Khalil Mack, it's not like they're going to trade him anywhere in the AFC West or maybe even probably in the AFC in general. And so he'd be gone.
Yeah.
The only time we would potentially even see him would be in the Super Bowl. And, I mean, that's, what is that an average of over the last 3 or 4 years? An average of like 5 sacks against us per season that we'd be rid of, I mean, it's just crazy what he's capable of doing. We'll
sweep the Raiders until freaking Kingdom Come, till the apocalypse if they lose Mac.
Yep. And that's what it's going to be because I feel like they are going to lose him. I feel like they've lost him.
He's been a single force Bronco wrecking squad on him. I mean, I would say that maybe there's a couple of games over the past like 3 years that they just wouldn't have won if they didn't have Mac. Period. He almost single-handedly won for them. Obviously, he's not out there scoring points, but he was that much of a difference maker. So this is a glorious day that they're facing these problems, and I did not think it was coming this quick. I mean, I'm thinking week 1 they come out, the veteran project just doesn't work, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Them potentially getting rid of their very best player is just beautiful.
Hilarious.
And tragic for them, but
it is.
And I just had an argument with I'm in a Raider fantasy group with I think it's called Raider Nation is the fantasy league, and it's like 8 or 9 Raider fans, and I'm the only Bronco fan, and our group chat is just like a 1-on-9 battle between me and a bunch of freaking Raider homers, and it's great. I love it. That's the story of my life. I grew up an hour away from Oakland. But, I'm just sitting in there battling, and they think the Raiders are better at every position group than the Broncos except for linebacker.
My gosh.
That's what they said. Every position group.
That's insane.
Was the argument. That's just madness. These people are living in a delusion. I'm like, bro, I like Gruden, but y'all in for a rude awakening. Rude awakening. And that's before the Mac stuff was really going south.
Yeah. I like Gruden. I like him on the QB show.
I love him on the QB show. I won't even say I love Gruden's quarterback camp. That's been one of the highlights of the offseason for me.
Yeah. That was not having that this year for the draft, that was a huge bummer.
Yeah.
Huge bummer.
The Russell Wilson thing didn't cut it. It was cool though.
It was all right.
It was cool seeing Russell and Baker going back and forth, but no, it was no Gruden QB camp.
I don't know. Maybe the Kirk Cousins Vita Ice thing could replace that. Oh my gosh, that's a whole other story right there. Well, what were your thoughts on two? I want to get your thoughts on 2 guys from last night. Just the eye test, okay? These guys got it because if these guys don't pass the eye test, they're not making the team. Isaiah McKenzie.
I was texting you and said we need to see more from him. If we have Pac-Man Jones potentially being a returner, then it's interesting that may have changed Isaiah's stock to where we can't just utilize him or keep him just because he's a returner. We need to see something more from him. But he just looks like he's got like 2 or 3 momentum shifting plays in him this season. And I don't want to lose him. And that kick return that was pulled back, they nailed it on the broadcast. They're like, hey, that won't be on the stat sheet, but that's on film. And that shows what he can do.
That's a great return. That was a really nice return.
Yeah. I say keep Isaiah.
Yep. I'm in agreement there. I think even though maybe River Craycraft has shown more in practices as a slot guy, I think the value on special teams as a return specialist with that speed, crazy difference there. Crazy difference.
Yep.
So, okay, how about another guy here? Brendan Langley, 2017 third-round pick.
Haven't seen anything, man, out of Langley.
Nothing. I was thinking the same exact thing. I've seen nothing, which bothers me, because you want the guy to succeed. Like it's not like, well, I don't know. I was bummed. I was bummed by that this preseason. I was really bummed to not see anything worth, like, wow. I mean, even to say like making the roster.
We got
like if they rostered, we got another cut.
DeQuinton Osborne.
Oh yeah, yep. DeQuinton Osborne. He just signed a couple weeks ago. Actually, I watched it. Not a shocker, no. Probably was a practice squad guy from the minute they signed him anyway. But really, really interesting player there. He's kind of built low to the ground, kind of built like they were saying on the Cardinals broadcast last night, which thank goodness you were spared of that. They were talking about some guys built like a fire hydrant, and I've heard that before, but it had to be refreshed in my mind. DeQuinton Osborne kind of built like a fire hydrant type of guy, really explosive off the snap. I think he had like 7.5 or 8 sacks for Oklahoma State last year. He's like a 6 foot, 315-pound, just bowling ball in the center of the defensive line. So with some quickness, I mean, so if you can get that guy on the practice squad, I am always for the Broncos getting somebody with Bill Kolar in his film room every single day. Like if Bill Kolar is teaching him, the defensive line coach, like I'm all for that. So if Osborne comes back to the practice squad, let's make it happen.
Raiders looking to trade 2nd-round draft pick Mario Edwards.
Wow. He was good against us last year too. Actually, like, I mean, he wasn't perfect or anything, but man, he was a good player. That's interesting. Dude, he's alienating. I mean, he really is. He's alienating the team. And I don't know what it is, he's trying to accomplish.
He's got 10 years to get it right. So
he does. He does have 10 years to get it right.
It's not this year already, but we'll give him another 9 and we'll see.
Yeah. Give him another 9 years, see what happens.
Like it.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm not upset about it. So
they're the new. Oh man, we got a new bottom, man. That's. Oh geez, I actually told my Raider fan friends, I'm like, look, you guys have been bad for so long. This was like several years ago, when they kind of like when they got Carr. It's like, hey, I want you guys to be good, because to be the best, I want to beat the best. So I would like the AFC West to be like stacked, full of competition, and for us to just be the best of that competition. Absolutely. I don't want to be really good because you need them to be terrible. I don't need that to be the situation. This is where it's both satisfying to see them being dismantled, because I have so many just like in my mind right now, like just smack talking Raider fans that I'm just like so satisfied with them being silenced. But at the same time, I was looking forward to them rising up and their Bronco Raider rivalry coming back that we used to have. And it doesn't look like we're going to get that for a while again.
No. Oh, here's some more cuts coming in. Jeremiah Putasi, former 3rd-round pick of the Tennessee Titans, and outside linebacker Marcus Rush. Interesting. He had that nice forced fumble last night. He played – I mean, Marcus Rush, for those who don't know anything about Marcus Rush whatsoever, if the Broncos' Marcus Rush was your first ever experience with him, he's a dominant preseason player throughout his career with Kansas City, with Cincinnati. Every stop that he's made, he's had multiple preseason sacks flashing on tape in San Francisco as well. 3 previous teams. I don't even know if he has practice squad eligibility anymore, but he's made plays in the preseason but hasn't been able to do it regular.
Putasi and Rush could be in consideration for practice squad.
Okay, so, well, maybe he does have eligibility. We'll see. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. So they did get go ahead.
So what are you thinking? Give us some like bold predictions. Give us some things we should be paying attention to. Cut days tomorrow afternoon. We might even do like a cut recap episode like tomorrow night or Sunday or something.
Yeah.
Maybe open the week up on Monday. We'll definitely cover it and share our thoughts. But kind of as like a final statement and a final preview or some final thoughts for our listeners of what you're thinking about what the Broncos are, some of the toughest challenges they're facing right now.
Yeah, I think the really tough challenge is going to be figuring out what to do with Paxton Lynch. It's going to be figuring out whether to keep 8 or 9 offensive linemen on the 53-man roster because, well, they just cut one of their second team offensive linemen. So that's the 9 guys that are left. In addition to the starters, you got Kouandjio, Max Garcia, Sam Jones, and Billy Turner. I don't know if you keep all 4 of those guys because a couple of those guys can play multiple roles. So
2 more cuts.
I think a couple more. Oh, Mark Chapman. There we go.
Yep, Mark Chapman and Antonio Simmons.
Yep, Mark Chapman, Antonio Simmons, Marcus Rush, Jeremiah Putazzi, Jordan Leslie. I mean, these are rolling in here. So the Broncos are getting out ahead. Marcus Chapman, the CFL. That was the CFL #1 pick. Shoot, he had a couple drops in the preseason game, so I was bummed to see that.
Yeah.
DeQuinton Osborne also, we can't fail to mention him. I think the Broncos are going to have a tough time deciding what to do with their outside linebackers and their defensive linemen because right now they have one more player at those 2 position groups than normally you would roster that they would either have to keep on the active roster or they would have to trade to get value because they cannot release them. So you have 7 defensive linemen, you have 5 edge rushers. That's 12 guys at 2 position groups where you normally roster 10 guys. So there's going to have to somewhere be a compromise between do you keep just 10 defensive backs and 3 off-ball linebackers? Do you keep only 2 quarterbacks? Do you sacrifice a running back? Do you keep only 5 wide receivers? Like, I mean, I don't know. There's going to be some really, really tough decisions to have to make, but I think that right now the Broncos, nobody that they've released so far is like, oh, dang, I thought that guy was going to make the 53. So obviously they're telling some guys.
They're making the easy picks first. They're going to make those easy cuts first and work around the issue and then get to the heart of it and the core of it. There's no way we're keeping only 5 receivers, though. We have way too many talented wide receivers.
Absolutely not. And they'll keep probably a total of 7 or 8 between the practice squad for sure. I mean, John Diarse is going to get released, but when we see that headline that says John Diarse is released, we should be like, all right, let's hope that he gets through waivers, because we want him back on the team. That guy has played well enough to be a developmental guy because, again, like we talked about with Jeff Holland, you've got to play the end game. And the Broncos have to play the end because look at next year. You got $29 million locked up on the cap with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Just the reality of the situation is those guys are not going to be able to stick around, both of them at that price.
I really, really tried to find that GIF.
Which one?
When you said the end game. I searched for that. I searched for that Star Wars Rebels one where Ahsoka was like, what game were you playing at, Maul? The end game, Lady Tano. The end game. I wanted it so bad. But instead I just found one where like Maul was like, I don't know, fighting Ahsoka and just put the quote in. But I wanted it. It was a perfect moment for it.
That would have been perfect. That would have been. I think what do you think about the Broncos tight end position? I think it looks last night I said it looks like just booty. Just straight up booty.
I just don't see us having anything outside of those 3 that we've talked about, and right now, like we didn't see much of Jake Butt in the preseason, and Fumagalli, the phantom finger, is hurt and is not going to be maybe not in the round for the first 8 games. So I think outside of Hireman, and then Butt doing what we are hoping he's going to do, I don't know what we have in that position. I think that may even be with Fumagalli not being on the roster week 1. I think we're eyeing tight end at the cuts and seeing who else gets cut everywhere else. Because I don't know if we have our 3rd guy, and I think Fumagalli is our 3rd guy. And if we can't start him till week 8 or whenever, then maybe we bring somebody else, and maybe we even wait and Fumagalli's like a year or 2 kind of thing. But I just don't see it. I don't see what else we have.
That's concerning. That is concerning. And I remember in the preseason, the broadcast crew for the Broncos, they said that that Bill Musgrave characterized the tight end position as bleak.
Yeah.
And now we kind of see why. Like at the time, I was like, oh dang, why would you say that to somebody with a major platform like those guys have? But I mean, he's just keeping it real.
Step up and prove him wrong, or don't, and he's 100% right. And that was the case, because what have we seen? Have we seen any of those guys step up? Like, I am excited that we're finally getting Hireman, and then it seems like Jake Butt's healthy, so that gives me confidence, because I do like both of those guys, and I think we have some potential playmakers there, but it is absolutely bleak outside of them. And I think in this offense, I think we absolutely need to be targeting and seeing what's happening elsewhere around the league. I don't know if you necessarily trade for a tight end, especially when we may have our 1 and 2 guys and just waiting for the third guy to get back. I don't know if we give up the value to get a tight end that way, but I think that there might be a guy that they love that, drops off of another squad that we grab to bring in as TE3.
Yep. TE3. Got to have it. Well, I think that this is all going to be interesting to watch unfold. Obviously, it's unfolding as we're even just sitting here. And so it's going to be, just like you said, fascinating to see what happens, because the Broncos have tough decisions to make. I mean, I think last year it was a bit easier, but I think that they've got tough decisions to make. So, and speaking of tough decisions, before we finish out here, I want to hear, and I want the listeners to hear about the pilot that you've been working on, your progress there, and where we stand here, because it's a big day.
It's Final Draft Friday for me, which that means is a couple months ago, I had a really good conversation with a producer friend of mine, and just was trying to figure out some steps to take moving forward. And one of the things we settled upon is it's time to get an agent, and it's time to lock in this script. And so I've spent all of July editing and doing various things. And then I shot my pilot out to a couple professional editors that have gone over and given me what's called notes back on the script. And I've taken those notes and I've applied them, and I set August 31st as the last day I'm going to work on my pilot before I switch into this next series, which is finding an agent and pitching my show. So that's all September and October. It's going to be a very, very exciting fall season. And so today is the last I'm going to be spending with my pilot before it's in some interesting hands, and it goes to some people that are going to be reading it and helping me make some decisions as far as studios to take it to and things like that. So it's going to be awesome. And it's a lot like, the way that it feels is like filling out college applications with your firstborn child.
Wow.
It's a bit of an emotional experience, because this is my baby. I remember all the ebbs and flows and changes and things I've done over the years to it. And it's not my only project, but it is my baby. I got other kids running around the house, but my firstborn child's about ready to potentially go to college. Now, it's a little bit more that way when you're selling a film, because then you're kind of just giving it to the studio and they run with it. Writers and TV have a bit more control over their project, so it's not like I'm giving him away, but I got to put these last touches and create its final form. So it's very exciting. I'm not nervous at all, but it's just like, I feel the weight of it. I feel the seriousness of like, let's do this. So it's going to be a great
day. Time.
It's go time, baby.
It is go time.
Hashtag go get it. Hashtag fire.
Hashtag go get it. Oh, dude, I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited for you, for just you being able to share some of those some scripts with me, different scripts throughout the past, couple years. And
you've been an avid reader over the past couple.
I have.
You've joined kind of my legion of reliable, consistent, very helpful script readers, and I very much appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I'm pumped to see it. I'm pumped to see it fleshed out. Man, because when I picture in my mind, I feel I can't wait. I hope that you get to see from what you've written, what you want to see, and how you want it to be fleshed out in a show. And man, it's going to be great.
I'm viewing it like, when I did my short film that Ron Howard produced, it was like standing in set and just watching everybody walk around with my script and seeing them turn this this abandoned building into like an abandoned hospital, and all this stuff that was once inside my imagination, and watching it all like be alive around me for a short film that I didn't really care that much about. It wasn't a huge deal to me. That was still one of the most surreal experiences of my life. So I cannot even imagine what that's going to be like on this scale with, potentially this Netflix TV series. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be unreal.
That's awesome, dude. That's so cool. So cool.
So if you're out there, follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. Believe in yourself. Never give up. You have those dreams and those passions for a reason. Believe in yourself. Get it done. Put the work in, and you will reap what you sow.
You will. You will. Absolutely. Great word. Well, dude, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for that. I'm pumped for what's to come with the Broncos season. But I think, as that continues to develop, as the pilot continues to develop, I think we need to be keeping people posted, because that's important. It's a big deal. So very big deal. Well, wherever you are, however you're listening, whenever you're listening, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We love getting to do this. We love getting to chat just with each other in general about the Broncos, but then, just being able to talk with you guys and gals, and whatever you're doing. If you're in the middle of your work day, if it's late at night and you're just driving in the car and you're listening about the Broncos players that are going to meet the Turk and get chopped, whatever your situation, it's just awesome that you're joining us. And so thank you for being here with us. Thanks for listening, and we're here to just do Broncos season with you. We don't want to try to put ourselves above anybody. Our opinions aren't the final word. We're just here to have fun together, to talk about the things that are happening.
We made it through preseason.
We did.
Have arrived. We are now game planning for week 1, Seattle Seahawks, revenge, decimation. Ooh. It's time to destroy all 12 men in Seattle, and I'm excited. We got the juice. Regular season, the juice. For the very first time. It's here. We've arrived. We got Sayre and I. We're here to provide you guys with some good, heartfelt insight. Just join the conversation. Come and hang out with us. Come talk with us. We're going to have some exciting guests. We got some really awesome people planned to jump onto the podcast. We've got a loyal Kansas City Chiefs listener. We've got a guy that listens to every single episode that's a Chiefs fan. And he says he's probably now the most informed Chiefs fan on the planet from being a regular listener of the Juice.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
So great.
I love that. We're blurring the lines.
Blurring
the lines.
This is Brandon Keckler and Sayre Bedinger. We've got exciting stuff coming up for you. Thank you for joining us. As always, God bless and go Broncos.